Let's begin with the life stories of Korean people. Before we begin, please subscribe and like. Please, please. Hello. I'm an ordinary father, 72 years old, living alone in a small town on the outskirts of Gyeonggi province. I hesitated for a long time before writing my story here. Hey, what good does it do for an old man to scold his child? It's all in my destiny. I consoled myself and endured. But now, the pain is too much to keep inside. So I'm writing this. My fingers are shaking, and even typing isn't easy. But I felt I had to share this story somewhere. I hope that if there's anyone, an elderly person in a similar situation, I'm not alone. They might find comfort in it. I was born in the late 1950s, literally at the very end of the barley hill. My father worked as a day laborer, and my mother worked as a servant for someone else. As a child, the only home-cooked meal I remember was always barley rice with a few slices of kimchi. Back then, hunger was the norm. Lunchtime was the most miserable time at school. When I opened my lunchbox, other kids would have at least a fried egg, but all I had was a couple of pieces of kimchi. So, I always ate my lunchbox secretly under my desk. I was so embarrassed that my classmates would see me and tease me that I often went to the bathroom stall to eat. I loved school, but I couldn't go for long. I had barely started middle school when my father had an accident. Our entire family's income suddenly disappeared, and we were in debt. Without money for hospital bills, all I could do was buy a pain reliever from the local pharmacy and apply it to my father's back. My father would lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, and occasionally sigh. I can still vividly remember how heavy that sigh was. Cholsu, school, let's quit. I still vividly remember the day my mother said in a trembling voice. That night, I cried silently under the covers. All my friends were wearing uniforms and going to middle school, but I felt so wronged and sad that I had to stop here. But when the morning came, I realized I didn't have time to cry. No, I'll work to buy my father's medicine and put my younger siblings through school. With that, I started running around the factory, the construction site, and the docks the next day. I was 14 when I first started working. At an age when kids my age were playing soccer on the playground, I was standing in front of the factory machines. The factory boss said, "Hey, you're young, so we can't pay you less than adults. But if you work hard, I'll give you a raise later." That later never came. But I worked from 6 in the morning until 10 at night. From then on, my life was always a life of protecting myself with my body. Even when the backs of my hands cracked and bled in the winter, I couldn't afford gloves, so I wrapped newspaper around my hands and worked. When my hands froze in the cold wind and went numb, I'd blow on them and grab the machine again. The doctor told me my back was already as bad as someone's back in their 40s, in their mid-20s. Carrying heavy loads made my back creak, but I couldn't afford to go to the hospital or take time to rest. So I just stuck to a patch and endured. One day, my back hurt so badly, I practically crawled home. My mother cried as she rubbed my back. "Cholsu, I'm sorry. I'm incompetent." "It's okay, Mom. I'm strong." It was a lie. My whole body was screaming, but I couldn't show myself weak in front of my mother. Later, when my children were older, they said, "Dad, you should have just rested a little. If you push yourself too hard, you'll hurt yourself." But back then, resting meant starving. If I took a break, the kids' winter jackets would disappear, their lunch boxes would disappear, and their tuition would disappear. If I took a day off, we'd run out of rice at home. If I took 2 days off, the electricity bill would turn red. If I took 3 days off, the kids would hang their heads, complaining that they couldn't bring their school supplies. That's why I couldn't rest. Even if I had 1,000 bodies, they wouldn't be enough. So how could I rest this one body? A generation that couldn't rest, even if they wanted to. I belong to that generation. My father's generation. I have 3 children. My eldest son, Junho, my second daughter, Mijung, and my youngest son, Minsu. Even now, when I think of those 3 names, I think, well, I didn't waste my life, but now my heart aches. Junho was born in the spring. I couldn't afford hospital fees, so I brought a midwife to give birth at home. When he let out his first cry, I went out into the yard, looked up at the night sky, and cried. I won't let this child end up like me. I'll make sure she gets an education and works in a clean office. With that promise, I worked even harder the next day. Mijung was born in the winter. People said they'd be disappointed because she was a girl, but I was actually happy. My daughter, grow up beautifully. I'll definitely buy you a piano someday. I couldn't keep that promise, let alone a piano. I couldn't even buy him the 101 hair clip he'd wanted in middle school. Minsu was born in the summer. I thought he'd have the most comfort growing up, being the 3rd child. But I was so busy taking care of my older brother and sister that I actually neglected my youngest. When the kids were little, I felt like I was going to break down after work. But still, I felt energized when I got home. Dad! The kids would run barefoot into the yard. Just hearing that sound made all the fatigue I'd accumulated all day melt away. Junho would cling to my leg. Mijung would rummage through my overalls pockets, asking, Dad, do you have any candy today? And Minsu would ride on my back and laugh. That laugh was the best music in the world. In the winter, we'd make sleds out of sacks and take them out to play on the neighborhood hill. Even when my back felt like it was going to break, I walked back and forth over and over again across the melted snow-covered rice fields to the sound of children's laughter. Dad, just one more time! Just one more time! When the children begged, hey, this is the last time. This is really the last time. I'd pull them back one more time. That night, my back hurt so badly. I lay in bed, unable to move. But when I thought of the children's happy faces, the pain was bearable. At that time, I was driven by the single thought, when they grow up, I hope they won't be ashamed of me. That's why I never gave up on studying. I didn't even finish elementary school, but I wanted my children to at least not give up because of poverty. Junho was in 5th grade. His homeroom teacher called him over. Junho's dad, this kid is really good at studying. I think you should send him to a private academy. A private academy? My heart sank at those words. Teacher, my circumstances are a bit... Oh, I see. I'm sorry. Still, this kid is talented, so it's a shame. When I got home that day, I talked with my wife all night. Honey, we have to send Junho to a private academy. How much money? We're running low on rice right now. 1. I'll find another part-time job. So I worked day and night shifts at the factory, and even worked part-time as a load carrier on weekends to pay for my eldest child's academy, my second child's math tutoring, and my youngest child's English academy. I only had 2 days off a month, and even then, instead of resting at home, I unloaded things from the back of a truck. One Sunday, as I was leaving for work, Junho asked, Dad, why do you always work? Other kids' dads play with us on Sundays. Those words tore at my heart. Junho, I'm sorry. If only I worked a little harder and I could send you to college later, then you wouldn't have to live like me. Junho nodded, but his eyes were red. My wife said, Aren't you pushing our kids too hard? Your back's not doing well. Wouldn't it be nice for them to grow up seeing you suffer? At that time, I said, if I suffer now, my kids won't be like me and won't have to go through this damn hardship. Isn't that enough? I lived with that mindset. I thought everyone in my father's generation was like that. I believed that if I suffered, my 3 children would be better off. That was the equation of my life. As time passed, my children moved to Seoul one by one. The eldest got a job at a large corporation, and the second became a civil servant. My youngest son said he was going to work in IT at a computer company. Every time my kids told me they'd passed, I'd clutch the phone and cry, "Dad, I got it!" Yeah. Good job. Good job. My throat choked up, and I couldn't continue. Even when I fell from a construction site and broke my ribs, even when my hands were frozen and numb in the middle of winter, even when I was paralyzed by a herniated disc, I kept telling myself, as long as the kids are okay, that's all that matters. Let's just hold on a little longer. And I held on. And finally, my efforts paid off. My wife and I drank soju and toasted. Honey, we did it. Our kids, you don't have to live like us anymore. That night, I was truly happy. At first, the kids came down often, not just on holidays, but sometimes even on weekends. We'd eat kalbijim braised short ribs my wife made, go to the local bathhouse together, and chat about various things over a glass of makgeolli. Father, work life is harder than you think. Working overtime every day. The boss is picky, but hang in there. What's wrong with working in an office? Back in your father's day, we worked outside even in the cold winter, but you work somewhere warm. Yes, that's true. I enjoyed talking about things like that with the kids. Why don't you come up here too? If you come to Seoul, the hospital is good, the subway is good, everything's convenient. Every time my eldest said that, I'd smile and reply, "Hey, I like living here. Smelling the earth and feeling the dirt under my feet. As long as you're doing well, what more could I ask for?" In fact, my inner thoughts were a little different. I thought, if I'm around my kids, won't I feel less lonely when I get older? But I never said it out loud. Being a father is such a strange thing. Saying I miss them feels like whining. Saying I'm lonely feels like a burden. Saying I'm sick feels like worrying. So I always kept saying, "I'm fine. You guys can live well together." But at some point, the frequency with which my kids came down to visit me decreased noticeably. What used to be once a month became once every 2 months, then once every 3 months, then once every 6 months. "Dad, I'm on duty at work this holiday. The kids' academy schedules are going to make it difficult this time. There's traffic. The 5-hour round trip is too much. I'll definitely come down next time. I mean it." That later hasn't come for years. Even phone calls have become shorter and shorter. "Junho, what are you doing?" "Oh, Dad, I'm in a meeting right now. I'll call you later." "Mijung, how are you doing these days?" "Dad, are you busy? I'm taking the kids to their academy right now." "Oh, I have another call coming up, but I'll call you back later." "Minsu, is work okay these days?" "Yes, well, just okay." "How's your dad doing?" "Oh, sorry, I have a meeting right now. I'll call you later." That later also never came. One day, I realized, for my children, I'd become the last item on their to-do list. Work, the kids' education, the apartment mortgage, our relationship, friends, hobbies. Long after all that, I realized that. It simply said, "Call Dad." My wife had suffered from diabetes and heart disease for a long time, but she didn't want to burden the children, so she avoided expensive hospitals and just got by with medication prescribed by a local internal medicine doctor. "Honey, go to a big hospital and get a proper checkup. It's okay. This medication is enough. I don't want to worry the children." My wife always did that. She put the children before herself. One day, Mijung called. "Mom, how are you feeling these days?" "Yeah, I'm fine. I'm taking my medication and doing well." It was a lie. My wife had been suffering from chest pain for a long time that morning. "Mom, when you have time, come up to Seoul. I'll take you to a good hospital." Okay. Later. That later never came. Then, one winter, I finally collapsed. That morning, as I was leaving the bathroom, I heard a dull thud from my room. Honey? I ran over and found my wife collapsed next to the bed. She was conscious, but not breathing properly. Honey, wake up! I'm calling 911 right now. My hands were shaking so much I couldn't even properly press the button on the phone. When I rushed to the emergency room, my hands were shaking so much I couldn't even fill out the guardianship form properly. My eldest child arrived late and calculated the hospital bill for me. Dad, you should have told us this in advance. We could have prepared for it. Though I said that, I could sense the burden on my eldest child's face. The doctor came out and said, "The patient's condition is not good. His heart is very weak, and he has serious complications from diabetes. To be honest, he may not make it through this crisis." At that moment, my whole world felt like it was falling apart. My eldest child grabbed my shoulder. "Father, calm down. Mother is strong." But I knew how long my wife had endured and held on. Because of the financial burden of the hospital bills, and because she didn't want to worry her children, how much she had hidden her pain. After a week in the intensive care unit, my wife quietly passed away. In her final moments, she held my hand tightly and said, "Honey, the children. Please take care of them." We were happy, though? Yes, I was so happy to have met you. When my wife closed her eyes, I couldn't let go of her hand. I couldn't believe that the person I'd spent my whole life with, the person who had always been by my side, even when I was hungry, cold, and struggling, was now. One day, I tripped and fell hard on the stairs. I woke up this morning and was going to the bathroom when I suddenly felt dizzy and lost my balance. Thud! I rolled down the stairs. I lay there for a while. I tried to get up, but my body wouldn't move. Am I going to die here? Like this? As that thought crossed my mind, the faces of my children came to mind. Junho, Miyoung, Minsu. If I die like this, the children will be sad, right? When I came to, I was in the emergency room. The neighborhood manager was standing next to me. Thankfully, it's nothing serious. This morning, while I was delivering the newspapers, I heard a groan in front of your house. I opened the door and saw you collapsed. I was shocked. Thank you. You shouldn't be alone anymore. You should live with your children. You'll be in big trouble if you keep doing this. Then the doctor said, "Where are your children? Have you contacted them?" That was so embarrassing. I dialed their contact numbers. The eldest was in a meeting and didn't answer the phone. The second said, "I'm busy right now, so call me later." The youngest didn't answer either. Finally, I contacted the eldest's wife. "Your father collapsed? Okay. I'll go first." The first to arrive at my side that day was the youngest's wife, my daughter-in-law. "Father, are you okay?" His expression seemed worried, but his eyes seemed to be tapping away at his calculator. "Yes, I'm fine. I'm sorry. I know you're busy." "No. Of course you should come." A moment later, I heard my daughter-in-law, who had gone out to the hallway, talking to someone on the phone. It seemed like she was calling her youngest child. The voice was so loud, I could hear her. "Brother, Dad fell again. Shouldn't we really look into a nursing home now? Honestly, we can't handle it anymore. It costs a lot of money for the kids to go to college, and business isn't going well. I'll be honest with you. Your father is a burden now. A burden. If he lives another 10, 20 years like this, what will become of our lives? We have to live too. If he keeps going back and forth to the hospital like this, our household finances won't be able to handle it." The moment I heard those words, my heart sank. Burden. I, who had worked my whole life to support my family, had now become a burden, a hindrance to my children's lives. I never thought I'd hear the word burden from the child I raised, from the family I held so dear. As I closed my eyes, scenes from the past flashed before me like a kaleidoscope. The dark winter morning commute to the factory. The sight of me operating the machines despite my frozen hands. The lukewarm barley tea my wife made for me. The memories of cutting up my own military gloves for the children when they didn't have any. The moments when I quietly bowed my head before the director because I had overdue tuition fees. The days I worked day and night to pay for my children's college tuition. All those moments, in an instant, were transformed into the two words, burden. When my daughter-in-law came back into the hospital room, I closed my eyes and pretended to be asleep. I didn't want anyone to find out I'd heard her. After I was discharged from the hospital, my children told me to gather, so I went up to Seoul. My eldest son came to pick me up in the car. "Dad, get in." The car was quiet. The radio wasn't on, and not a word was spoken. "Junho, are you okay at work?" "Yeah, well, just okay." The conversation stopped. 11 people gathered in the small living room. The 3 from my eldest son's house, the 4 from my second son's house, and the youngest son and his wife. My grandchildren sat down next to me. "Grandpa!" "Oh, my grandchildren. How are you?" "Grandpa, give me some allowance." When my grandson said that, Junho scolded him. "Hey, what kind of habit are you using, Grandpa? My friends say you give them some allowance." Those words broke my heart. Even if I wanted to give you an allowance, I couldn't afford it. The older child spoke up. "Father, we've discussed something." He took a deep breath and then spoke, seemingly prepared. "Let's sell your house. It's still quite valuable now, so you can use that to cover the nursing home costs. And how about we take turns visiting the hospital?" The younger child added, "Father, we know this. We all know how much you suffered when you were young. We all know you worked day and night at the factory and sent us to private academies and college. But we're having a really hard time now. Our jobs are unstable. The kids are growing up, and we have an apartment mortgage. Father, filial piety. Later, when things get a little better." For a moment, I burst out laughing. "You're saying you're going to be filial piety later?" "Yes, I'm not really well off right now. Later, when we're a little better off, I'll take you on a trip and take you to nice places." Hearing those words, it felt like someone was turning my life around. I also didn't have much money back then. It was a much harder time than it is now. There were many days when I was hungry. I didn't have money to go to the hospital when I was sick, and I couldn't even afford proper heating in the winter. Still, I gritted my teeth, trying not to put off the children's toys, new school sneakers, picnic lunches. Filial piety, later. When exactly was that later? Will it be after my father is no longer with us? After the dust has settled? I asked. "Junho, do you remember? When you were in 3rd grade, all your friends came home wearing new sneakers, and you were upset because you were wearing old ones." "Yes, I remember." "Do you remember what your father said then?" Junho bowed his head. "Don't worry. Dad will buy you some tomorrow." With that, his father found another night job that night. Even though his back was so sore he couldn't move, he bought you new sneakers the next day. It wasn't later. It was right now, because he didn't want to see you being teased by your friends, even for one more day. The living room grew quiet. "Mi-jung, do you remember? You almost missed the school trip in middle school." "Yes, I remember. Back then, without travel funds, your father couldn't sleep for several nights. In the end, he borrowed money from the neighborhood association and sent you away." That wasn't later either. I thought that making memories with your friends should be now. Mi-jung wiped away her tears. "Minsu, what about you?" The youngest raised his head. "Do you know what your father did when you almost had to take a leave of absence because you didn't have enough money for college tuition?" "I'm sorry, Father. You took out a loan. At nearly 70, and with no ability to repay it, you took out a loan for your tuition. That wasn't later either. I thought that you should not give up on your dreams and go to school. And that should be now." The room became heavy. The house you have now, the education you have now, the job you have now, the pride you have now, they didn't come overnight. You cut your finger on a machine at the night factory and had to bandage it and get back in front of the machine, and nearly broke your back after slipping on a construction site in the rain and had to go back out the next morning. All those countless days accumulated and accumulated, and they're the foundation of your lives. Father never wished for that you would later earn a lot of money and buy me an expensive car or send me to a luxurious nursing home. But on his 70th birthday, happy birthday, Father, he longed to hear those words from the hospital bed. Father, it's okay. Don't fall. We're here for you. He longed to hear those words. Junho said, Father, we were wrong. It's not about regretting your mistakes, but just change from now on. I'll take care of being filial later. Those words didn't contain any love for me. It just felt like, I'm busy now, so I'll put you off for a bit. Please, at least. Don't say that to your children. That night, the children were silent for a long time. That night, I came back down and sat alone at home. I put my wife's picture on the table and said, Honey, I'm going to try to be filial to myself. I'm going to stop relying on my children. I've lived my whole life worrying about what others think and worrying about my children, but now I want to live the rest of my life for myself. That day, I made a big decision. First, I wouldn't sell my house. This house is the only proof of my life. It's the space I've worked hard to build. Second, rather than going to a nursing home, I'll live in my own home until I can afford it. There are roses my wife and I planted in the yard, and traces of our children growing up. Third, I'll spend the rest of my life worrying about myself, not about my children. From now on, I'll eat what I want and do what I want. The next day, I sent a group text to my children. I'm not selling the house. I'm not going to a nursing home. Yet. I'll pay for my hospital bills and living expenses as much as I can, within my means. I know it's a burden on you, so I don't want to be a burden on you either. But don't treat me like a burden. I'm your father. I've lived my whole life for you. Please don't forget that. I received a reply from my children. Eldest child, Father, I understand. I will respect your wishes. I'm sorry. I was short-sighted. Second, I completely understand how you feel, Dad. But please, take care of yourself. I'm sorry. We need to do better. Youngest, Father, what my wife said that day was too harsh. I'll explain it to you. I'm sorry. I'll come down next weekend. I'm serious. Reading that reply, my heart felt a little lighter, but the hurt didn't go away. Despite my words, the youngest ultimately didn't. If there are any young people watching this broadcast or article, I also want to share this with you. Following your friends, your parents aren't perfect. They may have hurt you. They may have tried to control your life, or been harsh in their speech, or not provided you with enough financial support. They may have sometimes failed to understand you, or been stubborn, or imposed outdated ideas. Nevertheless, just once, I hope you'll reflect on the choices your parents made for you, for the sake of your private academy fees, for the sake of your parents, for the sake of your parents, for the sake of your cell phone bill, for the sake of your father, for the sake of your parents. Hoping you all get into good universities and good jobs. Your parents have sacrificed so much. Filial piety isn't about grand things. While it's nice to spend a lot of money on a holiday trip, it's also nice to make a phone call first and ask, Dad, what did you eat today? On your birthday. Instead of an expensive cake, bring a convenience store cake to your child's home and say, Mom, you worked hard the day I was born, taking just 5 minutes on the subway home from work. To send a text message asking, how's your back these days? Purchasing your parents' favorite side dish and visiting them on the weekend. Even while eating together, asking, what are your worries these days? That, to your aging parents, is the greatest gift in the world. Parents age faster than you think. Someone who was healthy until yesterday suddenly falls today. Their memory declines, and they have difficulty walking. If you keep putting it off, saying, next time, one day, that next time may never come. When your parents call, instead of saying, I'm busy right now, I'll do it later, say, just a moment, I'll answer the phone now. Those few moments give your parents the strength to get through the day. Now, I try not to dwell on my child's unfilial behavior and cry. Sometimes, I still feel resentment and cry alone at night, but I know now. I am the protagonist of my own life until the very end. I am someone who, without proper education, raised 3 children and made sure my wife and I could sleep in a small house with a roof. I broke my fingers, broke my back, lost sleep at night, and yet I protected my family. For that alone, I'm proud of myself. For the rest of my days, I'll be grateful just to be able to say, I'm alive today too, when the sun rises in the morning. I'll play Korean hwatu with the grandparents I meet at the neighborhood community center, go for walks, and sometimes have a glass of soju and talk about what's going on in the world. I'll visit my wife's grave often and say, honey, I'm doing well on my own. Don't worry. But sometimes, if my children open the door and say, Dad, I'll cook for you today, then that day will probably be the second greatest happiness of my life. The first was the day my children were born. When Junho first burst into tears, when Mi-jung grabbed my hand and called, Dad! When Min-soo laughed as he rode on my back. Those were the happiest moments of my life. If I could relive those moments, that alone would make me happy. With that, thank you for listening to an old man's long lament. If anyone is reading this and feeling a pang in their heart today, right now, I encourage you to call your parents. Mom, Dad, have you eaten? How are you doing these days? I miss you. Those few words could change an old person's night from crying to smiling. And remember, filial piety is not later, but now. While your parents are alive, while they are healthy, while they still recognize you, that's the time to be filial. They say the moment you think it's too late is the earliest moment. Today, this very moment, may be your last chance to express your love to your parents. Please, I hope you make a choice you won't regret. Thank you for reading this long post.